You have infinitely more power inside of your body than you even realize, and it is currently being underused. There is a load of science to back this up, but someone that was on this right from the get-go was Neville Goddard. Neville Goddard early on understood what we needed to do in order to shift our realities, in order to see a radical change in the environment and the world that we are living. And one of the concepts that I want to speak to you guys about today is living in the end to manifest instantly. This can be confusing for a lot of reasons, so I want to break it down in a non-woo-woo way, in a way that is implementable and can actually start to shift your life today. We'll look at exactly what this means, how to practically do it, and how to maintain it as a practice as you go forward in your life as well. Before we go any further, I want to break down what manifesting instantly actually means. A lot of people think that it means that when you say something, it immediately arrives in your 3D reality. That's not necessarily what it means. This has a much deeper, nuanced explanation. The first part is that time doesn't necessarily exist. So although we see everything in a logical, chronological order throughout our lives on the 3D realm, that isn't actually how the universe is constructed. And space and time are essentially illusions that our consciousness and our mind gives us so that we can understand the 3D world. If we saw everything that was possible, it would completely overwhelm us and would actually be a detriment to our survival as the human race. So what our brain does is it basically filters for what we need in order to survive. And that is not understanding the magnitude of the entire universe, including how space and time actually are weaved into everything. So in the 5D, which is the realm of possibilities, not only is that timeline already there, it is already happening right now because time doesn't exist. If we were to be conscious of the fact that time didn't exist, I imagine it would feel something similar to that scene in Arrival where at the very end, she's starting to get these visions that are pulling her between memories of the future and of the present tense. She's actually living both of these things simultaneously, so they are almost like as soon as she calls on them, they are there in her peripheral, even though she's not necessarily living them at the same time, but we're aware that they are there.
I believe it was important for you to see that.
I called you, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
There's a lot of research into things like precognition, and some of the theories go that precognition is actually just us remembering something that is happening in a future timeline. So we are just recalling something that we have already done because we've already done it. And that just stems on the fact that everything is happening right now, immediately. So when it comes to manifesting instantly, it's about understanding that instantly for our brains doesn't compute, but instantly in terms of the construct of the entire universe does. The second nuance of manifesting instantly is about understanding that our internal state dictates our reality. And if we can hack our internal state to believe that we are already experiencing the feelings of the future, then we will start to embody and experience that reality today. This is about hacking your consciousness to believe that you are already the person that is living your future life, even if your current 3D reality is giving you contradictory evidence of the opposite. I'll give you an example of this to make this a bit more tangible. About a year and 3 months ago, I decided to start a brand new Instagram account. I already had a very successful business, I already had an existing social media presence, and everyone was telling me not to build a new one because I already have something that works. But I knew energetically that I wanted to pivot into something else. I wanted to create this kind of content which goes into metaphysics, which goes more into nervous system, manifestation, and plasma, and how all of these things meld together to create our reality. I started this new Instagram account with 0 followers, and for the first 3 months, it was incredibly slow, but I was taking myself through some of the practices that I'm going to list today, which perfectly match with what Neville Goddard teaches. And in doing that, I basically hacked my consciousness to believe that I was already the person that had 100,000 followers. I even had a conversation with a friend that after 2.5 months of posting every single day, and I was getting like 100 views in every single video, I maybe had 200 followers at this point. And I remember saying to my friend, I know this sounds crazy, but I already feel like I have 100,000 followers. I know that sounds delusional, but I already feel like I'm living that life. This is the manifesting instantly. I had already decided that I was that future person. I was behaving like that future person. I was feeling like that future person. And so in my mind, it was almost trippy that I wasn't already at the outcome that in my body, in my mind, I knew was already true. And within 3 months of thinking like this every single day, things suddenly started going viral. In the past year, we've grown 80,000 followers. We've grown the membership a huge amount. A lot of this came down to living into the end result, like Neville Goddard speaks about. The thing that really anchors this together is whenever we create a manifestation, you need to understand that most of the time, we don't actually want the thing that we are manifesting. We want the feeling that we believe that manifestation is going to bring for us. So that may look like gratitude. It may look like accomplishment, love, a feeling of completion, admiration. Whatever it is, it's going to be unique for all of us. And when we can start feeling those feelings and bring them into our modern day reality and feel that even when our 3D reality gives us contradictory information. So my Instagram was saying, you've only got 200 followers, but I was looking at that with this mindset and consciousness of, I already have 100,000 followers. So the only thing that can happen when you believe that and you walk through your everyday life with that embodiment is your 3D reality can only start to shift to meet you there. That's why everything started growing after a sustained period of holding that energy. Manifesting instantly is essentially an acknowledgement that we can feel our future feelings today if we want to, but we have to intentionally bring them into our present day and stop waiting for our future self. Stop living in limbo for what we think will come in the future and start bringing it into today. Neville Goddard says it's the assumption of living in your wish fulfilled, the embodiment of your desires as a present day fact rather than a potential possibility. This is saying that you believe more in your future self than you do in your current reality. Like you're almost confused why you're currently in the state that you're in, but you don't let that confusion put you into doubt or frustration. You let it validate the conviction that you have that there is something else coming. The reason a lot of people struggle with manifestation, and especially manifesting instantly, is because people go into saying things like, once I get this, then I will be happy. When I get over there, then I'll feel complete. Once I've got the partner, once I've manifested the money, once I've got the $1 million home, then I'll feel complete. Then I'll be able to relax. Then I'll take care of myself. We create a degree of separation between where we are today and where we want to be in the future. And we say to ourselves, I am not there now. What that does is create separation. It creates lack. It signals to the universe, I am not that person right now. And everything that we know about the 5D realm and plasma, it responds to resonance. It doesn't respond to doubt and fear. It responds to coherence. It responds to a level of certainty and conviction in who we are. When we're in that place of certainty and resonance and conviction in our future state, plasma will naturally start to bring in a future reality to us. The more you say, once I get there, you are just pushing your future happiness into the future instead of the now. You're saying, I can't feel it now, when the reality is you can. So something I want you to think about is whatever it is that you are trying to manifest, what is the feeling that you are really craving to feel? What do you believe life is going to be like when you get there? Do you think that you're going to have acceptance, love, validation, praise, gratitude, happiness, love? It's going to be different for all of us, but what is the feeling for you? What do you believe it's going to give you? I want you to take some time and really think this through. Because the more that you can make your future reality a present day fact in your mind, and that means getting really specific about how you're going to feel, what are the actions that you're going to be taking in the future, the more you will bring it into your current reality. A reframe that Neville Goddard gives is instead of thinking of what you want, think from what you want. Think about that for a moment. Instead of thinking of what I want, think from where you want. Think from that timeline, from that perspective, from that person. What are they thinking? What actions are they taking? What does their reality look like? And what is the gap between where you are right now and how you are behaving and how you are feeling and that future self? That gap is your job to close. The more that you can close it, the more that you can feel the future feelings today, take the actions that you are waiting to take in the future today, the more you start to close that gap and the more your 3D reality will start to shift to inevitably give you the future and the reality that you want. About 6 years ago, my life looked really different to what it does today. I was in a tiny 2-bedroom apartment with windows that were completely broken. We didn't have like a hob or a cooker, and everything was just broken. It was super, super cluttered. And because it was so cluttered and no one was really coming over, I had no house pride. I wasn't really taking care of anything. I was allowing like dust and my wardrobe to like pile up. I had this horrible rickety bookshelf that like really bothered me every single time I walked past it. I was working with a money coach at the time because I knew I had money blocks. And she asked me a very specific question. She said, "Do you believe that the millionaire version of you is living how you live today?" And the answer was no. I kept on saying, when I get to my millionaire self, then I'll take care of myself. Then I'll have my room tidy. Then I'll get rid of that bookshelf. Then I'll buy these things. I was saying that I was going to start caring for everything, start living the way that I wanted to live when I get there. But the point of all of this is, why wait? Become that version today. If I really want to attract the millionaire version of myself, I need to become her today. So I cleaned the wardrobe. I got a new bookshelf and completely replaced it. I decluttered the entire house and started taking care of myself in the way that I wanted to take care of myself when I had money. Now, alongside some of the other reprogramming that I was doing, which is everything that is inside of the Inner app that I teach other people to use now, I was reprogramming myself to become my future self, including my beliefs and my feelings. I was feeling them almost every single day. Within 3 months, I was made aware that investments that I had massively gone up in price. Almost overnight, my net worth had increased to multiple millions. This is how the universe works. The universe works through embodiment, coherent alignment of who you want to become. The reality that you are attracting in is a mirror to your internal state of being right now. And if you are currently being the person who is waiting for your future self to take care of yourself or to feel a certain way, then you aren't living in coherence with who you want to become, with your future self. You need to close the gap. And the shifts in your 3D reality can start within just a few months. So how do we do this? The first thing that Neville Goddard speaks about is that we have to quiet the chattering mind. We have to do this because we have to hold our focus on a state of silence, but also on a state of expanded feeling. So we need to have that modern day monkey mind switched off. Now, for a lot of people that have just tried manifesting through meditation, you can sometimes feel like it doesn't work for you because your monkey mind never fully switches off. There is a missing piece here that will help you to turn off your thinking mind. Instead of just spending an hour and a half in deep meditation doing everything you can not to think, you can work with the magic box of the body to silence your mind for you. The method that does that is breath work. I'm not talking about the breath work that you do when you go to yoga or Pilates. I'm talking about intentional breath work where you are changing the gases in the body. When you intentionally hyperventilate for a short window of time, your body actually starts to switch off things. And the way that it does this is the last thing that developed is the first thing to switch off. And the last thing that developed for us as human beings was our neocortex, our thinking mind, the computer that lives in our head, which is the chattering monkey mind. Now, when you intentionally hyperventilate, that switches off. And especially if you're new to breathwork, that can happen within 5 to 10 minutes. Not only is breathwork going to help to silence that chatter, it also switches your brain state. So instead of being in the busy beta state, which you're in right now as you're watching this, you will switch to either alpha or even theta. Theta is like full subconscious reprogramming, but alpha is also a very suggestible state. When you then go into a visualization from this state where you imagine your future self, you are already priming your brain to believe it. In this state, you want to create a vision of something that you can return to over and over again. You want this vision to be something that is repeatable and simple, that allows you to get straight back into it really easily. Over time, the more that you repeat it, the more feeling that's actually going to be associated with this future memory. And the more feeling you start to experience, the more you're going to be communicating with those 5D realms. Now, what's really cool is our brains do not know the difference between what we are vividly imagining and what is real life. And there are lots of studies to show this. There are studies to show that when musicians rehearse something in their mind, their muscle memory actually remembers it 10 times easier than if they didn't do that at all. There's also been experiments where people have actually built muscle mass in their fingers just through imagining curling their finger or doing weights. This is also the reason that Olympians and incredible athletes rehearse the tracks, the races, the plays that they're going to be doing because it gets into their body as muscle memory. The same thing goes when we imagine our future state. The more you tune into that future state, the more your body remembers it. And Neville Goddard knew this, which is why he wanted you to continue to come back to this state consistently, because this is a part where a lot of people get tripped up. A lot of people will start to see the future vision, but they don't feel it. Thinking something and feeling something are two very different things. Thinking is 4D, feeling is 5D. Thinking is electric, it creates possibility, but feeling is magnetic. It's the thing that draws in the new reality. So if you aren't feeling that emotion, you aren't going to create a new reality. It's all to do with the feeling. And the more that you rehearse the scene in your mind, the more you imagine yourself experiencing it, bringing a smile onto your face and literally walking through that reality, the more you will start to create that feeling. This is a consistency thing. This is a mind training thing of them being able to hold your focus on that feeling and not allowing the monkey mind to come in and drag you off. That's why breath work is so important for this, because it will make it so much easier. The next important part is that you carry that feeling with you into your day. So instead of just finishing the meditation, going on your day, and then starting to experience overwhelm and fear that you aren't where you want to be, and you're getting this evidence that is contradictory to the vision that you've just experienced and the feelings that you've just had, you can't let that win and go back into the feeling of I don't have. When I get there, then I'll be okay. You need to decide that the dominant feeling is the feeling and the remembrance that you've just had in the vision. You almost need to become confused that the current reality that you're living isn't matched up yet. You need to trust the feelings that you've felt in your vision more than your current day reality, because we know it's just an illusion. You need a state of conviction despite what is happening in your outer reality. Now, when your outer reality does contradict with the vision that you've just experienced, this is where Neville Goddard speaks about the art of ignoring. This isn't about denying that something exists or that contradiction exists. It's about refraining from giving it time and energy. So instead of focusing on it, you need to actually bring your focus back to the feelings. So when I was growing that new social media account, I would get the evidence that I only had 200 followers and that no one was engaging with my content, but I wouldn't indulge in it. I wouldn't stay there for long. I wouldn't allow my thoughts to go haywire and be like, I'm not good enough. You see, this is never going to grow, which would bring my consciousness down. Instead, I closed my phone and chose the state of believing and being more convicted in the feelings that I'd experienced than in what my reality was showing me. This is the law of assumption in action. You need to assume that what you want is already out there, and you need to give more attention to the new assumption that you're creating than your current circumstance. But this does require mental discipline. This means that when you get the desire or the pull from your mind to go down a path of doubt, you have to stop yourself and redirect your thoughts. Now, you can use a very short breath work to do that, because as soon as you shift your breath, you change the chemicals in your mind and you change your mental state. But it could also be just literally taking a different action, not getting sucked into scrolling on your phone and deciding this is important enough for me to be disciplined. All of this requires persistence and practice, a continuous devotion that you are coming back to over and over again. Just as one session in the gym doesn't give results, it doesn't build your muscle, one session of doing this work isn't going to change your life. It is through repeated exposure. It is through repeated reps that you start to build the muscle, that your skill starts to improve, that your focus improves, or that you start being able to feel more of those future feelings than you're feeling right now. So living from the end is all about maintaining your focus on what it will be like to be your future self and walking through your day as if today. And if you're currently getting swept up in doubt, if something doesn't go to plan and you go through 3 days of feeling really low, allowing it to come into your mind and cloud your thoughts, you need to have the discipline to drop that, take yourself through a practice to return back to the dominant feeling of the assumed future that you want to create. The easiest way is through the breath. I've already created a load of these breath flows and they sit within the In-Awe app. The principles within the In-Awe app and Neville Goddard's teachings actually marry up together incredibly well. So if you've been confused by Neville Goddard's teachings and have wanted to find a practical way to implement them into your life, the In-Awe app can support you with that. I hope you enjoyed this, guys. If you did, please make sure that you give this a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel. It means the absolute world, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.